What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck did I just watch? You are listening to What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? You can find us on Facebook and YouTube at WTF Did I Just Watch? Thanks for joining us, and here's our latest episode. Hello, everyone. We're back for another episode of What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? And this time, along with John Paul, my compatriot, I've dragged my roommate into it because he's...
So that's how I got into this one. Okay.
Yeah, because we're running out of guests, so I'm just hooking them in from the streets, basically. So
I have no problems being a guest. I just didn't realize it was What the Fuck Did I Watch? And I was like, oh, now I get why.
So yeah, obviously my roommate does not pay much attention to what I do with my spare time.
Oh, it's very fitting for this movie, though. Holy cow!
Yeah, very, very, very much so.
I've got my blue on and everything.
So Pete is an anime fan. I am, much like with comics and everything else, I'm a casual grazer into the genre. I have kind of general issues with it.
All that stuff up here and whatnot. So
there's, in our living room is a whole other case, half of which is his anime and half of which is my mix of DVDs.
These are like plushies and things and all sorts of, but that's just collections. So
yeah, my anime extends. I think I stopped at some Macross Saga. And I stopped, Akira was a fun one. Oh, wow.
Yes, I have the automated cat ears.
Very nice.
Yeah, I don't think Jenny's ever seen them before. Now she's imagining you wearing them.
I think I've seen you wear them once when you first got them, too.
Okay.
And you don't have them on right now. I mean, come on.
I'm a little disappointed, Pete, yeah.
There's only so much space up here.
Also, why isn't the raccoon onesie being wearing? Why is that not your outfit for today? I don't understand.
It's a little warm still.
It's 80 degrees out still on in the middle of September.
Right. I was about to scream at Alexa and ask.
What's the temperature?
Yeah, pretty much.
Today she won't understand the question, so you'll just get in a fight with her.
There's that because I have a feeling I watch so much anime in here. She's used to the Japanese language, except for her name. So anytime I try to ask her anything normally in English, she's just like, "What are you talking about?" I'm just like, "Oh, come on," or I can't find that, or I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just like, "Ah, come on."
Yeah, technology. All right, so Perfect Blue is kind of a departure from, if you are not into anime and you think of anime, you won't think of Perfect Blue. You'll think of parts of Perfect Blue, but you won't really think of Perfect Blue. You'll probably think of like Howl's Moving Castle, Kiki's Delivery Service, more, and Perfect Blue is way more adult than that.
Yeah, it also came out like in '97 before anime was super popularized in America. So, we got a lot of disconnect when it came to, anime from that time versus what's coming out now. Because back in like the 90s and late 90s, it was mostly just what you found on TV or Adult Swim, Sailor Moon, Gundam, things like that.
We had Voltron in the 80s. I was telling Pete earlier that was actually
I was going to say Macross Saga. I love Robotech, so.
Yep. Yeah, they were all around the same era. Well, Macross, Voltron were all around the same genre of mech robots. Oh, I kind of miss some of those. I think there's another one coming out. Never mind.
They did do a reboot of Voltron on Netflix, which I didn't quite get into, but it wasn't bad. It just...
Yeah, I had the same issue.
But so, Pete, out of all the anime you could have picked, which there's a lot, why did you choose Perfect Blue for us to watch?
It's definitely one that will mess with your brain. You definitely have to, if you try to think about it or try to keep track of it, you're going to get lost your first try through because you're just like, what's going on? Now I'm starting to can't figure out what's real, what's part of the scene, what's part of the plot, what's going on. So it kind of messes with your head a bit. And then usually this is one of the ones you usually have to watch like at least twice, just because once you watch it the first time, you're like, I got enough of it. And then on the second try, you're like, oh, now it all makes sense and it's starting to fall in place. Mostly.
We'll say I've watched it 3 times now, and I'm still kind of like, did they purposely want to mess with my head?
Yes.
I think yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I guess we'll just jump into it.
Yeah.
I would say one of the
Oh, first of all,
closest.
spoilers. If you've never
Oh yeah,
seen Perfect Blue,
spoilers.
don't watch this yet. Go watch it. It's
Yeah,
currently
go
streaming
watch
on
it.
Shudder.
Sweet. I
Then,
can go through spoilers. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead through spoilers. But I
okay,
was
go ahead,
gonna
John Paul.
say,
Sorry.
if anybody wants to, say, oh, Americans did never copy from other stuff, and I call 100% bullshit, because there are parts of this movie that Black Swan blatantly ripped off.
Oh yeah.
This reminded me in part so much of Black Swan, with the duality of it all, that it was just like, wow, okay, so you're gonna just blatantly copy and call it your own. But
Hmm.
I mean, again, I watched it 3 times. I won't say I hated it, won't say I loved it, but boy, did it fuck with me.
Yeah. I mean, it's designed to be a psychological thriller. It's not supposed to be bloody horror, like, and jump scares like a lot of traditional horror movies are, which I can't say it's traditional, but a lot of main focus on horror movies or horror style is usually, jump scares, blood, gore, things like that. This is definitely a psychological thriller, and as well as the where you have a possibility of, like, I could see this happening. Like, you have that thought, like, I think this is something that might be based off a true story somewhere. With, obviously, they take some liberties here and there, but you can be like, yeah, I could see this happening to somebody, especially like somebody who has this identity that's already made for entertainment and the music industry, and then going, oh well, let's go over to become an actress now. And now it's like, oh, now they're having a breakdown of, did I make the right choice this whole time?
Yeah, complete identity crisis. And plus, to add to it, so you have this clean cut pop idol image is what she's coming from. She's part of a trio. It's very much J-pop with the look of it, And then not only is she transitioning to an actress, but they go straight from, here's one simple scene, to, okay, now your next scene, you're being raped in a club. So it's,
we're going to jump into that scene, because holy cow.
Oh my God, yeah, a lot there. There's a lot there.
I was going to say, I'm watching it the first time, and I'm like, what just happened? Because I'm going in, I'm following this girl's life. This is going on. And that was where a couple times where the blurred lines, I mean, the first blurred lines I thought it was interesting, because it starts off and you see what looks like Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, this is odd. And then it pans back and it's a stage show.
Yep.
And there's so many like little things like that, like the sirens going off in the one scene, and it was just a kid riding a little a train or whatever. I thought that was the genius, but also like, quit fucking with my head. I mean, and again, from the fact that she was like, okay, I was a pop star. I was trying to think of like, like curtain people, like maybe Christina Aguilera or Mandy Moore. Probably Mandy Moore more than anything, because now
Britney Spears would also be a good example, because
but
I mean, she never went into acting, but she started out in acting in the Mouse Club, but the image change over years, and then the breakdown.
That's also why I thought maybe even Mandy Moore, because she went from a transition of being this bubblegum pop idol in the 90s to just appearing in a couple movies, like A Walk to Remember, and people like really going, oh, she's a really good actress, to now like where she just ended her career doing recently This Is Us, where it's like you see a range of like, wow, you're a great actress, and now you're still also recording. And I heard one of her new songs recently, and I'm like, this is not bubblegum pop. This is like serious. I want to be known as a serious singer. I'm talking about serious things. And this movie does kind of like that whole thing, but it just comes so many times where you're just like, okay, am I watching a show about this person's life, or am I really watching this person's life? And there's just so much of that going back and forth that it just messes with you, especially the first time. The second time I'm
Yep.
like, okay, I can concentrate my brain, but a couple times I was just like, still, I'm like, wait a minute, where
Yeah,
are
well,
we?
the thing is, I think the fact that they were basically making the arc of the character that she was playing in the TV series as an actress and her own arc were the same kind of, you went from this
Kind of.
innocence to this,
Mhm.
twist, and they actually, in basically the same scene, whether it was the fictional scene of her being raped or the actual actress taking on that role, it basically led to the initial break. If you think about it, like right before, like right when she's agreed to go to the scene, she's on the subway and you see her reflection, and we're not going to do this, it yells at her. That's pretty much the first time you see the split, her alter ego showing up there, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's the first time, and it's right before she does the rape scene. But
So mostly from the way I've seen it, at least the way I view it is, it's more of a progression of her mental breakdown. Like it starts at the very beginning when she makes a decision to go from pop idol to actress, and then like one of the first scenes, she started to have her anxiety and her paranoia when she's sitting on set, and this is her first scene, so she only had like 2 lines, and she's looking around at all the people and thinking, like, even though it's not said, I get the feeling that she's like, oh, they're all making fun of me, or they're looking at me and laughing at me, or they're judging me. And that's, the beginning of her anxiety and how it just progresses deeper and deeper. And then, her character that she's portraying, those start to take traits. So like method acting. And then, it becomes a thing that actually starts to affect her,
yeah, no, I
So,
would
I mean,
agree.
Yeah.
She started having that anxiety before, but
I,
the first time you see the actual mirror Nima,
mhm,
I think is the subway right when after she's agreed to do that scene. But
yep,
See,
yeah,
I thought that, and even the lighting, like when she does certain things, the silhouettes go
yep,
from her like dance poppy, you know,
mhm. Yeah, like
routine
a
that she had at the
flashback
beginning.
muscle memory.
Right, exactly. And then like it turns on you. There's so many like little subtle things that
Mhm.
like I think watching this at home you kind of miss out. I think maybe if you saw this on a big screen and actually watching a film print of this, you would get kind of like those flickers, and that would add a really neat effect. But there was just little things that I just even noticed, just the lighting, the way things just kind of morphed into itself and onto
Mhm.
itself. Like even the quote unquote villains of this movie. And I say that in total quotes because are they? Aren't they? What are they? I mean, and then the mind fuck that is the ending, which we'll get there when we get there. But oh my gosh.
but so now that you brought this up, the film print. So the original film print, the 35 millimeter, it got destroyed. The original 35 millimeter camera negative. So everything you see now is copies sourced from lower quality prints.
Oh
So it'd
wow.
be
Okay.
really,
Yep.
it's kind of sad. It'd be lovely to see what it was in its
Yeah.
originality, but we only get copies of copies now. And also, so this actually was based on a book, not a true story, a work of fiction called Perfect Blue. Complete Metamorphosis was the first book. There's actually,
Yep.
I think, a sequel to it as well. Um,
Yep.
but the director was given free range to basically make the movie what he wanted to be, except for he had to keep the main character a pop idol and there had to be a stalker in it. That was the two things that he had to keep steady with the book, and the rest he had kind of like, they gave him artistic license to interpret how he wanted. Now I don't know how much he differed from the book because I have never read the book, but he
Yeah,
did
I
have to
haven't
keep
read the
those
book.
checklists.
I haven't read the book either, but they also did the book series had a spin-off, which then they turned that into a live action, and then which is not it's nothing related to the anime that we've watched, which is on Jenny's background. And then they also have a TV series, but I don't know too much about that yet.
Now that's interesting because this originally was supposed to be a live action and they had a lot of backers pull out, so then they ended up having to go the route of anime.
Mm-hmm.
I think metamorphosis is a great word, and I think that if I remember right, they use it a couple times in the movie itself because it's exactly what it does. It metamorphs, it transforms. I mean, even the like I said, you get the Power Rangers thing, and then like you get here's the Flash, the name of the movie, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're so used to, I guess, in different cinema, that even the things you get a couple little title cards, little things here and there, whatever. This just is like boom, perfect blue, there it is, and then
Right.
it just abruptly goes in and out, and you're like, okay, that's where we're starting. Okay, cool. I think there's a lot of that like it just surprised me in this, because I did not see a lot of things that were coming in all kinds of directions. And then, like I said, there's so many blurred lines that I was just like, okay, whose life am I watching right now? I mean, I like
Mhm.
this third time I finally watched it, I started going, okay, this person is this, I think, and this person is this. But no, they can't be this. I mean, I try to play a game with it, trying to like connect, but you
Right.
can't, because everybody's turning into everything else, and it's like such a neat way, and such a like, oh, I don't know. Like I said, and I feel Black Swan stole a lot of that kind of tone and that kind of like, I wouldn't even say dread. Dread is a terrible word, but it feels like dread, but it's not dread. I can't find the right word for it. But there was just so much of
Suspense.
that. Like, yeah, suspense, definitely. I mean, yeah, this is like when Jenny said, "Oh, it's on Shudder," I'm like, "Oh, so it's gonna kind of be like what I think a normal horror anime is. I'm gonna get like ripped, torn, all kinds of things."
Akira.
That's not what this is. This is a really great suspenseful movie. It would definitely be a really great live action movie. I mean, you could do it at a medium budget cost and not break the bank. It's just the storytelling of it was so neat.
Yep.
And yeah, view it as much as you want, because you're going to catch different things and interpret things so many different ways.
Hmm.
So my favorite thing to do with anime when I have the options, I actually like to watch it with the captions on. And then I also like to watch it if they have an English dub version, so I can just pick up different differences and nuances that you would get between the two. My fun story about this, though, is when I was listening to the Japanese audio with the English sub captions, Pete came out of the room and he just stared at me for a minute. He's like, I was going to come out and do the little choreography for it, but I figured that might be too distracting.
I've had this movie for probably a good 15 years or more. So I watch it repeatedly every so often. I'll get in a mood, I'll watch one or two of them, especially during Halloween season, because it's a good suspenseful thriller to get you, thinking about things and gives you a little bit of that edge of, something can go bump out there, but it's not supernatural. It's human.
They do keep you confused for a very long period on that, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the whole movie, in my opinion.
And,
I'm still trying to figure out the real ending.
so this came out like I think it was originally released in 97, but I think that was at a film festival, then actually distributed, I think, in 98. Fun fact about Japanese films, pre-mid 90s, groin hair cannot be shown. So this is one of the first, it's not the first, but it's one of the first that actually had pubic hair in it, which I just bring that up because a lot of anime comes across very pedophile-like. And it's not to say that this one doesn't still sort of have that vibe a little bit, but at least you have, post-pubescent, and they make a point of stating that her age is 21 or over, because she references that she had her 21st birthday. So these are things that make me a little happier and address some of the issues I have with a lot of anime. Things that don't make me happy, which is a lot of issues I have with a lot of fantasy writing and sci-fi writing, is the trope of women becoming changed or rape as a way to change a story arc, which is far too often and lazily used.
But
that being said, in this, it kind of makes sense because it's kind of a commentary on that as well. So.
I was going to say they did actually use that as a plot point for the portrayal of the main character's TV character.
Exactly.
That was they said that they were like, yeah, we're going to have your character, they're going to have the change when this assault scene happens, and you're just like, oh, okay, like understandable and kind of cliche, but also understandable for real. And
yeah, but it's, like I said, a trope that's often real life. But what I liked about how they did this is they actually had some fanboys saying, well, look, the ratings went up after this. And one of the fanboys goes, people are so stupid. And I'm like, thank you.
But that, I mean, I will admit, for a rape scene, I was like, oh my gosh, this is
It
this
was
is a little
intense.
longer than what I thought it was. I mean, I thought, okay, they're gonna show it. That's fine. I'm an adult. I've seen this. I've seen this in a lot of different horror, whatever. But I don't know. For this, it just seemed like, I mean, even like just the tears and all that, and like I said, and then the lighting, just the different colors, just different things are happening, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is just
Well,
crawling up.
even how they had
Yeah,
stopped it midway, like,
yeah. It was like,
like
what the fuck? No, this is
again, this
just,
is a scene
ooh.
in a TV series that they're filming where her character is getting raped, and like literally, like just as they're getting into the part where she was about to be raped, like, all right, cut, we got to move the cameras, and it was just like, how much even worse for the actress than just going through with the scene to have to
Yeah.
stop, hold your position while you're waiting, and like they even kind of addressed the awkwardness where the actor that was playing the rapist was like, I'm so sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
It's
also, it
not
is a
funny, but it was kind of funny.
it's a nod and acknowledgement of how the scene and society and industry, that's the word I'm looking for, actually works in entertainment, where, you know, there are scenes where you end up having to pause and hold your scene, hold your position, regardless of sexual orientation of a scene or not. Where you go, oh, hey, you know, we're doing the scene, but now we, you know, we're low budget, so we got to move the camera. We can't just turn on camera number 2 and say, okay, keep going. You know, same with when she was an idol. That's a little nod to what it's like to, a little bit of a nod of what it's like to be an idol, you know, in a different country where, you know, what the pressures that they're under, how they mention, you know, that they're not getting a lot of ratings, even though, you know, they still have obsessive fanboys and things like that. You know, they put a lot of nods and acknowledgments into other things, that's part of Japanese culture in general, that you don't really pick up on unless you're, you know, either been to Japan or studied it or anything like that.
So another, what I think is kind of funny and sort of historically interesting is, so, you know, when this came out, the internet was not that old. Like really the internet really got open to the public in like the early 90s. So you have this whole scene where there's an internet page that is supposed to be from her perspective, and they call it Mima's room, and she knows
Mhm.
nothing about it because she, you know, basically is not from the city. She came in to become a pop idol. The whole internet thing is new to her. She's very ignorant about it. But happily, her agent, Rumi, who was an ex-pop idol, which comes into play later, does know the internet and puts it on there. But there's so many funny, quirky things, like the browser that they open up is Netscape.
Netscape Navigator, yep.
Yep, and the page is angel.net, which made me think of the Angel Fire pages from back in the day when everybody would put one up for like their live action role play characters or just their own personal page. And
These are
it was
my favorite things.
basically read like a live journal. So it's a lot of nostalgia. If you're older, remember that stuff. It was pretty funny. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yep.
I think the only thing they didn't do was make the internet noise when she logged on, which made me kind of sad because that would have been funnier. But
Beep.
so, but yeah, I was like, oh my God, Netscape. Netscape is dead. It doesn't even exist.
It went through so
Google
many
and
different
Internet
hands.
Explorer got rid of it.
I was gonna say it went through so many different hands. Firefox for a
Mm.
Yeah.
while.
So yeah, I thought that was hilarious. I'm like, oh my God, Netscape. Even like the computer they have her typing on, it's a good like drawn version of like an old like Commodore 64. Or no, you know, the old Apple Macintosh computers. It was so
I'm pretty
funny.
sure
I
that
was
was an old old Macintosh, like the
yeah.
almost like right after 2E.
So yeah, so where it gets, like I said, it gets complex because she's actually having this mental split. And like the first time I watched this movie, I think it had to be somewhere in like the early to mid 2000s, and I don't remember how or when I watched. I watched it again with Pete. What, about 6 years ago?
Who knows? Yeah.
And then again this time for this, but yeah, the first time I watched it, I totally didn't get it. Like I didn't understand how the other woman was passing herself off as her at all. Like I kept thinking the whole time when Mima was seeing her pop idol Mima persona, that it was actually Rumi she was seeing, when it was not the whole time. Like the whole time it was a hallucination until the very end when you have Rumi.
Right. Yep.
And it took me like through the second viewing of seeing it to get that. Like the first time I saw it, I did not put that together. I'm like, how would she ever think this woman was because the whole
Did you
like
watch?
mental break she was having was not really settling in my brain correctly. It just seemed weird. Like I thought she was being gaslit, which in a sense she was with the Mima's room
I
stuff.
mean,
But
I
I
think
thought,
she was. I mean, that's a great term. I definitely
well,
thought she was
she
being
was by
gaslit.
the Mima's room stuff, but like Rumi was not dressing up as her and like chasing her around until the very end. Like that was
Okay.
just, in my opinion, like when she was seeing the pop idol, her talking to her from mirrors and stuff like that, that was her dissociative
Well,
personality coming into play itself. That was a
yeah,
mental
I mean,
hallucination.
it all, from my understanding, or my at least my observation, it all started pretty much when she found out about Mima's room, and when she, as she slowly got more and more addicted to the page, because she's like, oh wow, these people know so much about me, she started losing her own identity. And there's scenes in this movie where she goes home after acting, sits in front of her computer and just kind of stares blankly at it, going, "Oh." One of the scenes specifically, she's like, "Oh, I guess I went to Shibuya today and did some shopping," as if she wasn't even aware of what she was doing, because she's looking at the website now to get the information about what she's doing, which is where, it signifies that she's lost sense of herself,
Yeah.
which makes it easier for that ghostly the ghostly hallucination of her past self to be generated and to come into play, because she's no longer has her own identity anymore. She looks on the internet for this person that apparently knows her better than she knows herself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. But like I said, the first time I watched it, I didn't get it. The first time I watched it, I didn't realize how much her own mind had broken. And I kept
Mhm.
thinking that like Rumi had been following her around this whole time just as her, and she was not noticing the size and age difference at all, you know. But yeah, so it was not happening. But I was slow when I was younger. Leave me alone.
I'm not faulting you, because I was thinking that the first time I watched it, I'm like, that's why I said, I'm like, I'm so confused. I'm like, wait, is she? Isn't she? Wait, no, yes, no, wait. And I kept, like, as I said this last time, I kind of was like trying to piece what part was connected to who, where they connected, and if they actually connected. And then I came to the assumption, I was like, okay, no, she's lost it. But Pete, like you said, she kind of lost it by looking at herself. And I guess, I mean, hell, we can do that now. Think about like social media. A great example. We've now had what, from MySpace to what, TikTok now, to whatever the next thing is. I'm old, so I don't know. I recently got on TikTok like a month ago or two, and I mean, I haven't done a single damn thing on it. But what I do is I scroll, I scroll, I scroll, I scroll. Oh, okay, and I look and I look, and I'll be like, okay, it's 10 o'clock at night. It's 2:30 in the morning, and I'm like, where did the time go?
Mhm.
What just happened? And the thing is, it's not like these things are like long movies or whatever. They're just like little vignettes of people's lives, and you're like, what are you doing? And it's the same thing. You could see her doing the same thing back then with a little Netscape, my page, whatever of herself,
Yep.
and realizing, oh, well, I went here and I did this, and they're like, did I do that? I mean, there was just so much of that. And that's why, like I said, there's so many blurred lines in this, that it's just like trying to really, like I said, that's why for me, I was like, okay, I'm looking at color palettes to try to see where I can associate this with this, because I think that was the kind of running theme, that there were some different kind of color palettes that kind of made you get a little bit of piece of the puzzle, but not.
Mhm.
And like I said, we can jump into the ending whenever you want, because I want to discuss the ending more than anything else
If you want,
with
I mean,
everybody. I
we
mean,
could jump around as
okay.
much as we like. So go ahead. Oh, go
Right.
ahead, Pete.
I
Sorry.
mean, go ahead, Pete. Sorry.
I was going to just say, when did you have your first, like, did you ever get a point in the movie where you had a very solid, okay, this is the perpetrator, this is the bad person, the villain, this is the person that's been doing these things? Did you ever have a point in the movie, or?
I thought I did midway through, and then it just does a little flip for me, and I'm just like, okay, no, that's not, no.
Who did you
What?
think it was?
Well, I always thought it. I at first I was like, okay, it's got to be
Security dude?
security dude. Yeah, the weird.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't know how to describe. He was just, yeah, and I was like, okay, maybe it's that guy. And then I kept like focusing. And then I watched the second time and I'm like, wait, it's not that guy. Wait, it's not this person. And there's just so much that I'm just like, okay, I don't know. And
So go ahead.
and there was just parts where I was just like, I paused it because I'm like, okay, I'm getting worked up. I'm getting really worked up. Like I'm getting angry, and I'm like, why am I getting angry? And I felt like I'm gonna say it, Randy Walton, because I had the short fuses, little things where I thought I figured this damn thing out. I figured it. No, I did it, and then I had to stop it because I'm just like, I gotta take a breath. Gotta look at something else. Gotta look at something, and then I just come back and I'm like, okay. And that's why I rewatched it, because I was like, want to get a better understanding of it and have an educated conversation. But it just fucks with you. It just fucks with you, and it drives me nuts, and it fucks with you.
I agree. So like when the first time I watched it, I actually jumped to Rumi right away as the perpetrator of the Mima's room thing. But I had a moment where I thought, well, maybe it was one of her Chan sisters that just wanted to throw her under the bus. And then I popped back to Rumi, especially like after the whole split where Rumi didn't want her to go be an actress. She was fighting very hard for her to be a pop idol. And the scene, the filmed rape scene where Rumi just starts bawling her eyes out.
Yeah.
And so I picked up on her as being the one of running Mima's room right away and influencing Mr. Mania, who was like, I figured he was the one who was doing the killing. Where they did throw me for a loop is when they killed the photographer, because they show her doing it. And they show Mima doing it, and they throw the clothes in Mima's room, like in her actual room, not the internet room, but like in a real apartment. So that one threw me for a while. And I just assumed that was her hallucinating, wanting to kill him, the fact that he did get killed, and that Rumi planted the clothes later. But that took me like 2 watchings to come to that conclusion.
I'm still somewhat confused about that scene.
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe
like I said, I've had
this.
my like, I think what happened, I mean, is yes, that Rumi probably planted the clothes, but I think that the killing scene was part of her actress role in the TV drama, which is called Double Blind. I think it was part of I think it was a blend that you've been having, John Paul, where
Exactly.
Where it's blending together. Like it happened in the season, in the series that she's acting in, but it also happened in real life.
And that's why I was messing with me, because I'm like, where is
so
it?
Like there was a
Where
scene
are
she was
we?
filmed where she was killing somebody, but in her mind, even when she was acting the scene, she was seeing the photographer.
Something like that, yeah.
Because obviously she had some things she wanted to work out, because the photographer basically coerced her into taking more racy pictures than she really wanted to take.
Yep.
Got it. All right.
And again, that's like I said, that's where I was just like, okay, especially the whole TV show Real Life.
Mm-hmm.
And exactly, what was the title of the show again?
Double Blind.
Double Blind. So you're double blinding real life, double blinding. It just like, where are we? We're just so intertwined that of course she's going to have a mental break. But did she really have the mental break? Was the mental
she
break?
Definitely had a mental break. I don't know if she went on a murder spree, but she definitely had a mental break.
Right. But it goes back to like, okay, American Psycho, the movie, not the book. Bateman going around at the very end of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
He feed the cat to the ATM. I did all of this stuff. And they're like, no, you didn't. Didn't he? I mean, what the hell? We saw him do crazy things, but was it in his head or was it real? And this one just messes with you even more, because she's doing a show that involves these kind of acts. Like it's like if Mariska Hargitay was, having a mental breakdown while doing an episode of Law and Order. It's like whether or not she is, the cop, not the guy, seeing all this shit. And that's, like I said, it's still 3 viewings. I'm going to watch it again, but I'm still going to be like, I don't know.
Give it a couple days, maybe a week, and let it marinate in the back of your head.
And I will. And I guarantee I'm going to rewatch this recording of us talking about it, because it's going to give me other nuggets that pop out while we're discussing it. Because again, there was just so much of this thing that I can't. Can I recommend it in the sense of like, hey man, you want to watch a movie that is this, and this? Sure. Well, watch this movie here, but it's also this, and this, and this, and that. It's like, it's hard to explain without, and it's like I said, that's why I was just like, okay, this is on shorter. I already had expectations. I thought, okay, it's gonna be crazy, either vampiric or werewolves or all kinds of like, it's anime, all kinds of crazy things.
Tentacles, there'll be tentacles, right? No,
Tentacles, yeah, hentai. There's gonna be some hentai. I know there's gonna be hentai.
Oh, I got that. No.
There's gonna be all kinds of things. Nope. This was just straight up suspense in such a neat manner of a mental break, and in such a way that I was just like, man, okay.
It takes you with you. It takes you with the mental break. Like you
Oh, it
kind of feel like
does.
you're having it yourself because of the way it's done. And it's
100%.
really, really, really well done. I
My
mean, like if
brains
I
are
were going to
wigging out.
recommend it, I'd be like, if you want a movie that will haunt you in the sense that like days, years, randomly later, you'll just be like, wait, what happened? This is the movie to watch. You will think about this periodically for the rest of your life once you've watched it, even only once. Like, it's the truth.
And you get a little bit of the whodunits, like with Clue, Knives Out, where you're trying to figure out Scooby-Doo, where you're just like, okay, like we can probably figure out who's behind all of this. So you get a little bit of that where you're trying to figure that out through the whole thing, because that's what the main character is trying to do too. Is like, who's behind this? Who's writing this page about my room and my daily life and all these activities that I do, and who's doing the murders and who's doing this and that. So you get a little bit of the whodunits as well.
Sorry, Ham had a moment.
Oh.
At any rate, yeah. So, but the ending though, John Paul, you want to talk about the ending?
I mean, okay, so they go to the hospital, right? And
that part of the ending. Okay.
You mean the very ending?
Yes, the very ending. I'm just so what's the word?
Because the double bind ends basically the same way that
yes,
actually
and
ends.
that's why I'm just like, did I watch the end of the show, or did I watch the end of this woman's life unraveled? Well, you know what I mean.
The answer is yes.
I hate that.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you. No, but you know what I mean? That it's just kind of like, okay, where are we?
So yeah.
There were so many of like, where are we? Oh, she's not seeing reflections, but if she's seeing reflections, what's going on? That's what messed with me.
Well, because the double bind ending was that Mima's character was the killer, and she had a psychotic split, and she dissociative personality, where she basically took over her murdered sister's personality and then killed to make up for it somehow, and ended up in a psych hospital in a padded room, basically.
Right.
And had
then
not
goes
ever
and sees her and gives her flowers. Which really
when she goes and gets flowers, that's when we move over to the reality but she's bringing the flowers.
I wasn't sure.
She was bringing the flowers to Rumi, and Rumi had the break, and Rumi basically had just totally absorbed being Mima the pop idol. Though the doctors in that did say that sometimes she does go back to her original personality, but it's very rare. So
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say the Rumi scene is the actual scene where Rumi actually did have a dissociative mental personality break, and she lost her original personality because she was so obsessed with Mima, the main character. And so that's why she got very emotional throughout all of the jobs that they were taking, because Rumi was very attached to Mima. So when it came to making the assault scene, when it came to, Mima deciding to become not Mima, but Mima deciding to become an actress and everything like that, besides that security guard, Rumi would be the second closest and most obsessive fan besides security guard. So when you're that obsessive as a fan, who also works with the person that you idolize, that, no pun intended, is an idol, and then they drop that status, they don't handle that well, because they always want this person that they've been idolizing to stay in this role. And now that they're no longer in that role, that's when Rimu started having her break as well. And that's why when
I would agree. And I would also add the fact that you have to remember that Rumi had started out as a pop idol herself, and she did not make it. Right. And so I think in addition to not only did she idolize Mima, I think one, she had sort of a parental affiliation with her, like she as acting as her agent and stuff, that she was basically viewing Mima as a daughter. And then as Mima was shifting away from that. So she was, I think, also like a parent might do when you have a kid that you're rearing, that you kind of put your aspirations on them so they can go achieve where you did not achieve. I think Rumi did that as well. So she was hoping that Mima would achieve as a pop idol where Rumi herself could not. And then when Mima popped out of it and decided she, or went along with the other agent to not be a pop idol anymore and go straight for acting, this took Mima's dream, or Rumi's dream, away again. So not only was she not able to achieve pop idol by her own right, she's not going to be achieving a successful pop idol through Mima either. And I think that was also part of it. So
there's also, I was gonna say, there's also the issue where after Mima split from Cham, the group, the original idol group that she was part of, when they were just a duo, the pop idol group actually started making the charts. And Rumi had no affiliation with Cham. She had affiliation with Mima. So Rumi was also watching, what Mima used to be part of start to become successful, that she was been hoping for to happen this whole time. And now, she can't be part of that success anymore.
yeah,
So, like she has that feeling of like a failed parent.
failed parent. And then that's, yes, totally took on Mima's personality and dubbed herself the real Mima. So, and then corresponded to Mr. Mimania and set him up to be the real Mima's savior. And that's when the murder sprees happened.
Right, especially because Mima didn't know anything about the internet or email addresses, so it was easy for Rumi,
Rumi, I believe.
Yes, Rumi, thank you. I keep getting that mixed up with my friend's cat's name. I don't know why, but it was easy for Rumi to impersonate Mima, because Mima had no idea about the internet. She didn't make email addresses or anything like that. So she could be like, since she's so obsessive, she could put all that information out on the website and contact her other obsessive fans and get them to do whatever they wanted, whatever she wanted them to do.
Yeah, which also speaks to a split that was happening in Rumi even before all this, because that page had been up,
before the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I'm gonna have to watch it again.
You're still
because
welcome.
You're making my mind you're making the like stuff just go, start up again in my mind. Like I need to look into this.
You're still welcome to borrow the DVD unless Pete mixes it. So you can.
No, I'll watch it again. I'll watch it again. No,
Yeah,
that's all right. I'll watch it again.
What languages have you watched them in? Both languages or just one or the other?
Just the Japanese.
Okay.
With subtitles.
Watch it in English as well. You'll find different nuances and different things that sometimes one translation or one audio track will go into more than the other audio track. So sometimes you might find out a little bit more information, just because also when it comes to translation, sometimes they're like, well, we don't know how to translate this accurately in 1997. So we'll give you this much information about it. And sometimes that could be a little bit too much information that wasn't supposed to be revealed yet.
That goes with all translations. I mean, again, English is my second language. Spanish is my first. I remember watching a whole bunch of movies as a kid that now I growing up later than watching them in English, I'm just like, yeah, but I knew that because of, and then people will be like, no, they don't say that. And I'm like, but they do in the Spanish version.
Right. Yep.
So yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. And that's why, you have the periods that are like, no, you have to watch it the language it is. And I'm like, no, but sometimes you catch different things. And I mean, another great example of that is the movie The Platform. It's on Netflix. Have you guys seen it?
No.
It's a Mexican movie. Not to give too much away, but there's a platform, and it goes on levels. Okay, the highest level has this best kind of food. The second has the scraps of the person, then it goes lower and lower and lower.
So like a class societal.
It's a total class societal. It's brilliant, both in English and Spanish. I love that movie, forwards and backwards. The way they just mess with you with that, and the ending is just like, oh wow, that's brilliant. Not to sidetrack, but again, that's the same thing. It speaks to the point of the dummy, and kind of like I thought of the way you guys said, okay, so she knew her as this kind of way, and we get that now with fandom of whatever it is that we like. You know,
Mhm.
my big thing lately that I've been noticing more and more, which kind of drives me nuts about a lot of fandoms. I'm going to say Star Wars, Marvel, horror, whatever. People are just fixated. Disney, whatever. People are fixated with, oh, it has to be this way. Why does it have to be this way? Why can't we give something else a chance? You know, like you said, Disney, great example is, yeah, the bullshit controversy of the Little Mermaid. It's a fictional character. She can be whatever the heck she wants to be.
Yep.
You know, get off it. Nightmare on Elm Street. Again, I'm a huge Nightmare on Elm Street fan. I love it dearly. Forwards, backwards. Robert Englund. I've met him. I love him. He's great. Yeah, I want to see another Freddy. Yeah, Jackie O'Haley, you didn't give him enough chance. I mean, yeah, in my opinion, the problem with that reboot, too much CGI. Get the CGI out of there. Okay, it would be it gives you a better origin story of Freddy than the original one. I said it. You guys can yell at me in the comments. You know, Star Wars, the toxic fandom there is just ridiculous. You
It happened
know,
with She-Hulk as well.
yeah,
Where
exactly.
people,
She-Hulk. I
they didn't
love
even
She-Hulk.
realize
It's
they're
funny.
like, because they were like, oh, there's She-Hulk. Why are they making a woman Hulk now? And it's like, that's canon. That's part of the series. Like,
That's
What do you mean now?
that's what Marvel did because they had a successful show with the Incredible Hulk, and they realized, let's make a female version comic right away and snag the rights before somebody else does.
Yep. Back in
Come
the
on.
80s. Well,
Back
that was
in the
what, like
80s.
the late 80s?
Exactly. I mean, it's stuff like that it's just like, you know, step back, look at everything, research it before you open your big mouth and get on the internet and whatever.
Adam's Family, that's another one where they're
Yeah.
super mad about the current casting. Like, it looks exactly like the original freaking drawings that
I know,
Chaz
right.
Adams did to start with. What do you mean it's
I'm
not true
happy
to
for
the
Guzman.
original?
I am so happy for Guzman. He's a wonderful actor. I'm so glad that he now has to get the beautiful Catherine Zeta-Jones next to him as a co-star. Good job, Guzman. You finally got it.
Well, even funny where they're like, it's Adams. He's not supposed to be Latino. I'm like, his fucking first name is Gomez. What the heck is
Gomez? Exactly. But I know we're getting on the sidetrack.
Sorry.
But again, but then again, on the other hand, and I'm going to plug this because you know what? I have a platform to plug. All right. Last weekend, I went and saw the premiere of the Fred Heads documentary, which was a documentary on Nightmare on Elm Street fans, not necessarily the movies, but the fandom. And it was one of the most heartwarming, funniest documentaries I've seen in a long time. Right now, it's not available anywhere, but I know they think they're going to debut it more in different conventions. I suggest people seek it out because everybody involved did such an amazing job. It tells a beautiful story of just fans because it's got fan submissions. It's got true fans who made it. It tells their stories and tells stories, you know, not necessarily of outcasts, of people who, you know, got bullied when they were younger, but now they have a community, and that's what people need. It's, you know,
that's what fandom's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be diversifying. It's supposed to be you gathering through something that you find that you like and you enjoy, so you can have like people you can talk to. It doesn't even have to agree exactly with everybody's point. You can be a lover of a fandom and not have to have it be this way. That could just be your opinion. This is something that could just be an opinion. You know?
That's right.
This is something that doesn't need to be a war. But
that's right. You know, it's just, yeah, everybody has a voice. Yes, we all do. That's true right now with the internet and social media. That's right. We all have a voice, but we also have choices, and we can choose to be an asshole and choose not to be an asshole. Plain and simple.
Yep. Yeah, the anime community has a lot of the same things too, where it's just like we get hate where like, oh, you know, the cosplays aren't supposed to be this race, or you know, this, that, or the other, this body shape. It's like, don't be an asshole about it. Just let people enjoy the shit that they like to enjoy.
Exactly. So
I guess that's really the message. Enjoy what you like to enjoy, and if you want your head fucked with, you will enjoy this movie.
That's right.
But yeah, so there's, just to tie it back in, so the very ending we already discussed, but basically you don't really they don't really show you Rumi's part in what happened until like just before that. So like this whole time, Rumi's really good at playing that she has nothing to do with it. You know, I mean, she does gaslight the shit out of Mima.
Yeah.
Because she's the one who's doing Mima's room, you know, on the internet. And then like when she's talking to Mima, she acts like she has no idea about Mima's room, that it was something she just discovered, just like Mima did, you know. She visits her and then like the next day visits her again, and poor Mima at this point doesn't, you know, as John Paul pointed out and Pete pointed out, like has no connection with reality anymore. She doesn't know what she's done from day to day. She's basically being dictated to what happened in her life by Mima's room and has no idea. So, you know, she's having a chat with Rumi in her house and she's like, we haven't seen each other in a long time. And Rumi's like, we just saw each other yesterday. And then Mima cracks a cup in her hand and like, you know, cuts herself open basically on the shards. And she's like, is this real blood? Like she's totally, it's like the most amazing on-screen meltdown that I think I've ever seen. Like just the whole way it does it is just really like, woo, you know, like
Yeah,
just
it's slow and
it.
believable.
It's astounding how well they did it. And you know, it doesn't come out until Rumi sicks Mr. Mimania on the actual Mima, saying that she's an imposter. And of course, how else is Mr. Mania going to attack her? But he's got to try to rape her first and then kill her. And the upside to that means that she's able to kill him instead. And I will say one of the most satisfying things that I've ever seen is the scene where she thwacks him in the head with a hammer. That thud just makes my heart so happy. I love it so much. Like I will watch the movie over and over again just for that scene where she's like, bonk, and he's like,
yep.
It brings me such joy on so many levels. And where it gets really disturbing though, so like, I mean, you want to talk about an ultimate betrayal. And the worst part is I don't think Rumi's a mental case. So she doesn't feel she's betraying Mima at all. She thinks she's saving herself because she believes
saving
now
her personality and saving her reputation.
Yeah. She really believes Mima's an imposter now. Like so, but yeah, so there's Mima like ripped up clothes, just survived a near rape and murder. And Rumi takes her to her house, but when Mima wakes up, she thinks she's in her room at first until she starts noticing subtle differences where it looks almost exactly like her room, except for it's got all the stuff up that she took down from Cham. When she opens the window, she sees there's a different view. And she still hasn't quite put it together though, because she's like calling out to Rumi and Rumi's like, oh, it's fine, it's fine. And all of a sudden Rumi comes in dressed up as, you know, in a J-pop costume, which is slightly different because she's changing the look a little. And yeah, and that Rumi's now gone. Rumi has left the building at this point. It's now the real Mima, and she's like,
I'm
yeah,
your
Rumi
biggest
left.
fan.
Like, yeah, it was an intense switch, even to the point where they're struggling and fighting. And you can tell that Mima's still mentally gone herself a little bit, because when you see Rumi dressed as Mima following her, whenever you have Mima look back to see her chasing her, you see this person floating. Like it's not moving like a real person. Like they're just like able to like hang glide in the air for a little bit and lightly jump over things where you're sure the actual Rumi could not quite be that light of foot. No human can be that light of foot.
It's pretty much, I mean, it's like Mima is pretty much like believing Rumi's own lies and hallucinations, but it's also along the lines of, you know, like crackhead strength, where like towards the end in the chase scene at the end, where, you know, the hallucination is floating along chasing after Mima, but when they're running past the storefronts, you see Rumi just, you know, sweating and panting hard and everything, you know, revealing the fact that, you know, Rumi is the hallucination at this point. You know, it's along the lines of like crackhead strength, where you're like, wow, normal people can't do things like this. They can't just jump 3 stories off of something, land on a roof, and then just go on like nothing happened. Oh, but it's a crackhead. Yeah, they'll just put a refrigerator on their back and ride along on a bicycle. And you'd be like, oh yeah, he's on crack. That's something that they do. You know, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, once you're in a distress or a mental state that's not your own, and not medicated and not taken care of properly, you know, that's where you start finding these things that people are doing superhuman feats, and you're just like, oh wow, that's a superhuman feat. It's like, oh, because the brain's no longer working properly. It's not saying, oh, you're in pain. Your brain doesn't tell you that anymore. Your brain's just like, yeah, keep going, you're fine. You know, you cracked the bone, but it still works. keep chasing after this person. Yeah.
Yeah, to the point where it was funny. It's kind of a drag queen moment in my world. I don't mean that offensively. It was just really interesting how at one point Mima pulls off Rumi's wig and like that kind of snaps her out of it for a second. But instead of trying to finish the job, she has to get her wig back on first, which is just like, my hair, which is not funny, but it is, because you could totally see that happening. Like when you're in an altered mental state, not necessarily speaking from my own history, but something that can knock you out of it, you want to put back on if you want to stay in it. So so when she snatched the wig off, Rumi had to put it back on so she can finish being Mima. But
right. I mean, when she took on that
almost
whole
a moment of comic
persona.
relief, though.
I mean, when she took on that whole persona, the Mima persona, like she put on the old costume, she put on the wig, she, made herself as close to looking like Mima as possible. And when you disturb any of that, like if her costume would have got ripped, or, when her wig got removed, that broke the spell of, the self spell of, hey, I'm now this person, because now she's missing a piece of that person, or at least the part that makes her that person. So that's why
It
she
also
had to go
broke
back.
it for Mima as well.
Yep.
Because once she pulled off the wig, she can now clearly see Rumi, whereas before it was like in shadow.
She was no longer believing the lie that Rumi was putting out. She was like, oh, now I can see through the lie because I can see the real you without the wig.
Yeah.
Don't look at that man behind the curtain.
But yeah, it was also so like the very end, what ends up saving Mima completely. So at some point, Rumi falls through a window, stabs her gut, but ends up in the middle of the street, and tractor trailers coming at her, and she just sees spotlight. So Rumi, in her altered mental state, is just envisioning she's on the stage as Mima about to sing to the crowd, and the actual Mima goes and jumps and knocks her out of the way just in time. But this also stops the truck so the police can come. So and that ends up being the end of Rumi in the sense, well, in more than one sense. So she gets incarcerated into a mental institution at that point, and they find out that she was the one. Well, I assume they find out that she was the one that inspired Mr. Mimania to be, but who knows? They don't really go into there's no convenient denouement where they explain it all to you. You have to piece it together yourself, which is also contributes to the confusion. So
well, I mean,
the fun watch of it all.
I mean, Mimania was also killed as well by Rumi. So
no, Mimania was killed by Mima herself. That was the hammer to the head. I'm pretty sure. No, there's another guy she killed as well. She killed her agent partner. Rumi killed him and left his body there as well.
So at the after the hammer thwack, and after Rumi, found her in the hallways, tattered clothing, trying to recover from being almost killed and assaulted, Rumi as acting as if nothing happened, if I remember correctly, because the movie does mess with your head. They walked back to that stage, to that set, and Miminia's body wasn't there anymore.
I don't know. I do know that there was a point where the two bodies ended up in there. I don't know if it was on the same set or not. I'd have to watch it again because now, I doubt my own vision of it. But I was pretty sure the hammer killed him. It's possible Rumi moved the body, but I do know that she had killed her agent partner, the one that was advocating for Mima to become an actress and all that, because he ended up on the stage near Mr. Miminia's body as well. But I thought they flashed to that after.
It is possible that Rumi did move the body and then like gouged his eyes out and everything afterwards. But
I think the gouged eyes were the agents.
That is all of them. Every person that's been murdered in the series or in the movie, their eyes were gouged out and they were stabbed.
Now I got to watch it again to see Mr. Mimania's eyes were gouged out.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. Welcome to the mind fuck that is Perfect Blue.
Perfect Blue. But yeah, so does that help John Paul?
I'm gonna have to rewatch it again. I'm just saying. But on that note, I mean that's a perfect way to wrap this episode up because it was definitely a what the fuck did I just watch?
God damn it, I gotta fucking watch it again.
God damn it, watch it again.
Well, I'm glad I could help.
Well, Pete, thank you so much for giving us a good mind fuck. and a good
Not a
what the
problem.
fuck.
I'm pretty sure I've got more around here somewhere I can find for you.
Hey, you're welcome to join us anytime. Anybody is. We welcome any guests. Just put your little comments below on the Facebook, the YouTube, and say you wanna join us, and we can discuss all kinds of fun stuff. TV, movies,
Yeah.
So
You can pick your poison, or you can have us pick it for you. So,
and you don't want us to pick your poison.
or you can even go to our old, guest co-host Mike Eshelman and have him pick it for you. And you really don't want that to happen. That's
So
But
on
yeah.
that note, that has been another fun episode of What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? I'm Jean Paul Mantilla, with always Jenny Morrow and our wonderful guest Pete. Thank you so much for joining us. You guys have a wonderful day.
Bye.
You have been listening to
What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube at WTF Did I Just Watch? Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll join us again soon.